All right, so I think this is everyone. It is now 9:35 here in Hawaii. We are on schedule to start up our discussion on the future of Ecoboards. We have a few rad human beings on our panel today, people I enjoy hanging with and learning from. Desi with Entropy Resins. They're revolutionizing our resin industry for use of surfboards as well, hoping to break into other marine industries. We have Ryan Harris with Earth Technologies. I've rode his boards and crafts in the past and currently love them. My short boards are great. He's breaking a lot of boundaries for what's possible, as you guys have heard in our last talk. And then we have Tasmin. Tasmin is with Starboard. We're part of the Starboard Dream Team, and Tasmin is very knowledgeable in the department of Ecoboards and all that goes into our program, from the materials and as well the restoration programs involved with Starboard. So we have a Q&A here. We have our live chat panel. Would love to welcome in our first guest. That is, I guess, Becca Glantz, I believe. Oh, nope, excuse me. He's welcoming us to this discussion on the chat board. But if anybody has any Q&A for us, any questions you'd like to share, we're all here and excited to answer anything involved. I see there's about 17 people on. So for anybody involved and all you guys tuning in, looks like we got Brett, Cole, Jason, we got Signal, we got Brian Davis, we have Chad, David, Becca, Mark, Tom. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Any questions you guys have, feel free to drop them in the chat board or the Q&A section.
I got a question for Zane.
Yeah, what's up, Ryan?
How big were the waves yesterday, and what size board were you riding? What was pumping?
I went through the unintentional Waterman day yesterday. So we had I started off on my Starboard SupSurf board. It was the 8.0 Pro, and I chose the 8.0 because the waves were about 15 to 18 foot face, near 20 foot face. And so the little bit more length and volume helped a lot getting in. Of course, it's a gold level eco board, but unfortunately, my leash broke. The board didn't fail on me. My leash broke and sent it straight into the lava rocks, which if you know La Perouse, if any guys have heard of it, it's one of the most unforgiving coastlines you can imagine. And so, unfortunately, my Starboard needs a big repair job. I'm surprised it isn't broken in 3 pieces. But that blue carbon Ecoboard technology stays strong. So I took my Ecoboard out after my short board, and same thing. My leash broke, got sent to the rocks, board broke, and then I went in. I'm like, I don't have any more boards to ride, so I grabbed my swim fins and I body surfed some. But the waves were epic. It was really fun, and sure enough, later that day, my friend's looking at the drone video. I was like, hey, you know when you were swimming around out there with no board? And I was like, yeah, that was fun. He's like, yeah, it was a huge tiger shark checking you out the whole time. I was like, what? No.
Oh, my God.
He sends me this screenshot of this tiger shark following me around as I'm just slowly swimming laps in the circles around the lineup.
That is nuts.
That was fun. But, you know, actually at the end of that session, right before we were going to leave, my friend lent me his board. It was a bark board, 8.4, kind of minigun. And I ended up catching one of my best waves of summer for Hawaii. You know, to get the wave overhead in Hawaii during summertime is special. We don't normally swell. Like, you know, you see Tahiti breaking like crazy, and we're waiting here. You know, where's the surf? It's waist to head high. But around the corner over there at La Perouse, it picks up a lot of energy.
That's sick.
I've got a question for each of you, I guess, if we don't have any questions coming in. What would you say would be the biggest thing that maybe consumers can support with like eco innovations in the surf industry? What would you say they can do the most of?
Ryan and Des.
I'll start. I mean, I think as this panel talked about, you know, people being open-minded to switching materials. I think Zane and I were talking about that earlier. Everyone gets used to using the same old stuff that's out there, and being open-minded about what the possibilities are. I think, to me, that's usually the seeds of change. And I think Ryan's a huge example of being open-minded.
Yep.
Sometimes a little bit too open-minded, but crazy stuff. But yeah, no, just not just picking up something off the shelf because it's easy, but trying new things.
Yeah, I would say go to your local shop and demand they carry more Ecoboards. They don't need to be rare, but I could rattle off probably 5 of the 7 big shops in the South Bay and only think of 1 or 2 that carry Ecoboards. Yep. So if the consumers aren't demanding it, why are the shops going to change? And as a brand owner, I don't have the time to go knocking on doors to get my boards in there, and they're quite frankly not going to carry them if they're not demanded by the consumers. So I think that's really important. It's part brand awareness, but it's also the consumers have to request it.
Yeah, and professionals are also not only requesting this but demanding it as well. And I'm really grateful and proud to have been an early athlete working with Sustainable Surf Team and Starboard, riding all Ecoboards on the world tour for stand-up paddle and windsurf. And early on, I was inspired by a group discussion similar to this, and it kind of made me embrace my power of choice. Well, if I'm advocating and love this ocean and create a lifestyle from it, I need to support it fully. And I'm riding boards and using clothes that might not be eco-innovative and that might not be uplifting the environment. So I made that choice and worked hard with Starboard and Sustainable Surf. And as well, a lot of my custom shapers, and this is where Desi mentioned was the tough part, is getting people who are experts, who have had a lifetime experience, to change their process, their way that they do things. And I remember working with my big wave board shaper, Joe Bark. This was one of the hardest things. He's been shaping boards for a long time in California, and him and his crew have their process for glassing and shaping. And when I brought over the eco materials, I said, okay, I want all my new Jaws boards in this. He's like, are you sure you want your Jaws boards? I'm like, yeah, I want to put them through the test drive. I want you guys to get familiar with the materials. And I remember we were back and forth, and they were a little frustrated, but after they made a few of them, they figured out the process. And sure enough, I still have these same boards from 4 years ago that Joe Bark made, and I'm still riding them out at places like Jaws, putting them to the ultimate test. And so it does take, I think, just encouraging the consumers, but as well the people creating the boards. And yeah, Ryan, why don't you answer that from Greg Schmidt there?
I just texted it. Yeah, so Desi answered that question for me earlier. So Burton is one of the labels currently using bio-epoxy in their snowboards. I know from working with Entropy in the past, they had their own skis, and we started working with Signal. Desi, you'd be probably able to answer that question a little bit better. Who all is using Entropy in snowboards and in skis, and why? We already know the hesitancy too, but I want to know who is using it as well, because it's freaking cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think just like, I think this there was a winter session of sea change, and watermen like Zane and professional snowboarders, all get to exist in these natural environments that they want to protect. So we've got a lot of movement in using more sustainable materials in the snow sports industry, just like in the surf industry. And again, it's all about kind of protecting these places that we get to enjoy with these pieces of equipment.
Unreal. Awesome. Yeah, it's really cool to hear from you guys on this. Of course, Desi, you've been breaking into all kinds of industries and brands. And right here, we got another question from John Toll. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Do Ecoboards have EPS Pop Extra Float? or do they sit more in the water like PU? Now, this is a great question because I remember early on when epoxy boards were starting to catch popularity, more for the short board circuit. I started getting a few epoxy boards and feeling the difference in the same dimension, same shape, but there's a different feel, different buoyancy. And so the dimensions may slightly change going from a PU to an EPS to epoxy EPS. But Ryan, I would love to hear more from you on your experience with that.
So having built poly boards for about 10 years and epoxy boards for about 12, I don't ride poly boards anymore, ever. A, because of their toxicity. B, epoxy boards are lighter and they have better pop, better flex, better longevity. We all know this in this panel. Therefore, why is it so hard to sell them, right? Why are they not? Then why aren't there? Why isn't it flipped? 90% epoxy, 10% poly. Maybe it's a little bit of the sticker shock. They're a little bit more, but they are built in a way so that they don't feel so different than the status quo, right? So it's my job as a tech person and Ecoboard builder to build these things so that they feel just as good as what has been the standard poly board. They outsurf, they outperform their traditional, counterpart, and they just straight up answer the question. Yeah, they're going to be more buoyant, but the way we build these boards, we build them so that they all the epoxy stereotypes, all their chattery, all their quirky. Well, if you build them the right way, there's none of that, and you only get the benefits of a more flexy, more durable, lighter board. Mm-hmm. So they're going to help your performance rather than hinder it. So yeah,
but also help the wallet too. I mean, what's more sustainable, burning through multiple boards a season or a year? That's not sustainable for the ocean or the environment, but it's also not sustainable on your wallet.
Right.
And one of the biggest reasons why I've, as well, Ryan, completely transferred to all epoxy from windsurf, stand-up paddle, surfing, prone paddle boarding. All my crafts on the ocean are epoxy. So I totally agree with what Ryan just said. And it looks like we have some other questions. Another question for Ryan. I'm sure you see that there from David Lawless. Yeah. Any plans to scale out your methods for reuse and production waste with tech?
I kind of feel like we need a whole other factory for that. Like, dude, with the whole, the shred skateboards and that whole thing, like, we're thinking about doing snowboards and getting to other sports with that as a core. But I've been getting a lot of requests about processing other people's waste. We can't take it on right now because we're scaling. You know what I mean? I have to deal with our waste problem because as we get busier, we make more waste. But yeah, long-term plans. My plans are for the whole industry. I want the whole industry to do this. Other factories at the bare minimum can have the same high-density plastic shredders and at least densify their waste. And we already know ways to use it. There's super rudimentary ways of doing. You can make. How many people can make coasters out of their excess resin and sell them like in their own factory? It just basic stuff that I feel like any shop could be doing, poly or epoxy. But yeah, in terms of my genius long-term plan, I definitely see a lot of other rad products that can be made with the shred core that's going down with the skateboards. And so plans of scaling that out are a myriad of different, products, and we're gonna start doing more lifestyle stuff, tiles, for example. But
yeah, I would love that. I'm doing a home renovation that requires a lot of tile right now. I'd love to see some eco tiles.
Yeah, they're gonna be sick. I gotta make a mold for them, but they're gonna be rad. That pool, that test pool I got to surf, the Palm Springs one, we're gonna be doing some stuff for them for their rollout when it opens. So we're gonna have some tiles in there. So yeah, I'm pretty fired up.
Well, I mean, from the last talk that you guys tuned into, the future of Ecoboards, you guys may have heard our discussion, but Ryan is not only using his waste in the shop from the boards he's building, but people are also dropping off waste to him. I would love to see people inspired by what Ryan has done at his shop and focusing on the other end, right? Ryan should be one of the guys focusing on building his craft and supporting the community of surfers and riders. And he has shared with the world what is possible. Now, I would like to see other people jump in and say, you know what? Well, there's so many shapers that focus on shaping and glassing and building. Now maybe there's an industry ready to take grasp of the opportunity for collecting their waste and actually making a facility specific to this. And it's not competition for Ryan, as he just said, right? He wants other shapers and other people to get involved and use these practices and do this, right? Now we have two other questions here. I think these two questions could be answered by Tasmin appropriately. Mark Heinzer, what is the thinking about end of life for surfboards? Is it great to use more sustainable materials? How do we dispose of them? So maybe we start with that. Is Tasmin still on?
Yeah, I'm still right here. Yeah.
So maybe
I think, it's a super good question. It's something that we've been looking into at Starboard for a long time. We were starting to scratch the surface a little bit and starting to get somewhere. Because of all different materials, all different resins and everything at the moment, they're so stuck together, it is really hard. With the resins that we've been talking about previously, we are hopefully able to pull apart the resins and the different layers and then recycle them appropriately, because we are able then to pull them apart and then move them on to like a further lifespan, so more circular. We just really want to make sure those materials do not go to like waste to energy or to landfill or anything like that. And I think what we have to do with that is work across all different industries, as we were saying before this chat, with the boating industry or anything else that uses multi-layer. We have to talk with each other. We have to learn from each other. We might be different sports, but at the end of the day, we're still working with the same materials a lot of the time. I think, just working together, and then also hold on to that board and see if you can give it an extra life somehow in the meantime. I know so many people like making artworks and chairs and tables. Like, we just need to keep doing that for the meantime until we find something what we can do, unless there's anything else out there that we can work with right now.
Tasmin, that was a great answer to Mark's question. You may also see another question below from Claire Baranowski. Can anyone answer if there are any solution for recycling inflatable SUPs? You probably have an answer better than most for this, Tasmin. So
yeah. Hey Claire, nice to have your question. Thank you. So it is super tough again. However, with Starboard, we've got the second-hand boards at the moment that we are upcycling, I guess, into bags and things, different types of bags. Again, look at repairing as much as possible, and like just in case there's still more life in it. Again, it's harder to upcycle an inflatable board into a table or anything like this, but then there'll be other things you can do. Like it could be a call out to get creatives out there to try and chop down these boards and make them into things as well. Like that's something that we need to think about for sure. But yeah, that's the solution that Starboard's working on at the moment, making them into bags, because they are waterproof as well.
And that seems like a functional material for a waterproof bag. Now, there's a lot that needs to be put behind that thought, because inflatable SUP market is a growing in popularity wildly. Now it looks like we have Brian Davis and Lizzie Howard. I'm going to allow them to jump on if they have any questions, a part of the video chat. I believe I just added them in. Okay, maybe they decided to not jump on. If you guys are still watching, please, and you would like to have an in-video question, please do so by asking to join into the moderation panel there at the bottom of your screen, or you can just drop your question in the chat or Q&A section on the right. So I have a question for Desi. We were talking a little bit about how we could maybe translate our experiences and knowledge and process into other marine industries. And I was asking you a personal question before we started about a boat project I was working on with my dad. And when my dad was buying all the materials for this boat repair, and I'm his apprentice learning from him humbly and quietly, I see him buying these materials that I wouldn't want to use on my surfboards. And I wanted to ask him, and I did. I'm like, hey, Dad, could we use some different materials? And he looks at me, he's like, I've been doing this for a long time, and we're going to do it this way. We put a lot in, we're going to do it right. And so it's funny because, of course, I have to step back and just learn. But at the same time, it's a question I had for you. Are the boating industries, are marine workers affected? How's the health of workers working on boats worldwide? It's a much bigger industry than surfing. And so these materials being toxic, I'm sure, are not good for the people working on them. I mean, in this case, a family project for a father and a son, or why isn't there more available materials for boat repairs and things like that? And can the same materials be used for things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, all these questions that we've been talking about, the surfboard industry, I think there's a lot of parallels with every industry. The marine industry is a great example of that, like you said. Most of the materials that exist in that market have been there for, since the beginning of composite construction, solvinated resins like polyester, solvinated paints, things that have high VOC contents, and the industry's been built around using those products. So can you use epoxy and can you make better products with that? Absolutely. I think that's the key point here, is that if people are open to thinking about different materials, there's companies like ourselves and builders like Ryan and obviously Tasmin and Starboard that are capable of advancing the industry. We today we don't do a lot of marine, but it's growing. I think an epoxy construction in a boat has the same benefits that they do in a surfboard. Epoxy is always going to be a stronger material than polyester. You can make things more lightweight. They can be higher performance. It's just you need to put it in the right companies and the right craftsmen's hands, and anything's possible. So it's change that obviously this conference and all the people involved want to see, and people like ourselves as materials designers are trying to push that.
Thanks, Desi. Yeah, that's it'll be exciting to see how not just ocean industries start to change, but I mean it's coming to a point here where we're all going to have to change one way or another, professionally and personally, whether it's at work or at home. And we see industries like surfing really leading charge, using eco-innovative materials, changing the process and the way things work. And a lot of professionals and experts are interested in testing it. And so that's really cool. I was just talking with a local tow surfer here in Hawaii, and he's working with the company that's trying to build the most eco-friendly jet ski. And, that's kind of, exciting to see that now a tool that has been used for surfing, an extension of surfing, is now trying to follow suit with the surf industry's Ecoboard revolution. A lot of the WSL riders are now using it, and now this company is working with athletes and experts in tow surfing and jet skis to make a more eco-innovative jet ski. I think that's cool. Electric, maybe some epoxy, some bio-epoxies. But yeah, there's so much more that we could talk aside from what you guys just heard for the future of Ecoboards. But we're pretty much coming up to the end of our Q&A. If Desi, Ryan, Tasmin has anything else they want to throw out, or maybe if there's anyone watching, I see there's still 16 people active. If you guys have anything else you'd like to share, please drop it in the chat or Q&A.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that joined in, and to the panelists, my fellow panelists. It was a pleasure to be on this with you guys. Super insightful. And yeah, Y'all need to go to Vermont. It's cool here. Let me go drink some beer and chug some maple syrup.
But you're doing the not so virtual event, right?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Zane for being the hostess with the mostest and taking us through this journey. So good job, Zane.
Thank you so much, Desi. Thank you, Tasmin. Mahalo, Ryan. Once again, I look forward to meeting you in person, Desi, Ryan, and Tasmin. I'm sure I'll catch you guys soon. To everyone who is tuning in to the Hula and C to change on H2O, big mahalo. You guys are embracing your power of choice. Let's see a difference in our oceans and the world. All right. Aloha. See you guys on the water.
Shoo.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
You.